Uosikkinen in the Pocket is sponsored by the School of Rock Main Line and Kroger Percussion. I'd like to thank the School of Rock Main Line, located at 511 Old Lancaster Road in Berwyn. You can visit their website at schoolofrock.com. Ask for Dave Marsh or Rick Allison. I'd like to thank Kroger Percussion at krogerpercussion.com at a /ITP, and it'll bring you to a website. You'll get a 5% discount. Call Eric Metz at 215-669-8588. That's krogerpercussion.com.
Yeah.
There we go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the David Uosikkinen in the Pocket podcast. Good afternoon. I'm coming to you from Regensburg, Germany. It's 4:45 in the afternoon here. And, here we are. David Uosikkinen in the Pocket on this beautiful day. It's really beautiful here. It's sunny. It's hot. My co-host is joining us today. It's Freddie B over there. How you doing, Fred?
Good, not bad. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm a little tired, but I'm hanging in there. You know, I mean, it's been a long ride. We've done 24 shows, and we just did a run of 8 shows in 9 days. So I'm feeling a little toasty, but I feel great. It's been a gas, you know.
Nice.
But it's good, you know. But we're not here to talk about me.
Right.
We are honored and almost I'm a little overwhelmed to have our guest today. My wife, Dallyn Pavey, is our guest. Hi, Dal. How are you?
Hey.
Hello.
How are you?
How you doing?
Good.
We're good.
To be here. Wait, what is this episode? What did you say?
Oh, this is episode 111.
111.
And you've probably felt the pain of every one.
No, I listen to most of them though. I think they're
yeah. Thank you.
Fun. I'm a little bit nervous, but
don't be nervous. You don't have to be nervous. Listen, just think that we're just hanging out. Because listen, you know, you can actually say anything you want on this podcast because there's no
and then you'll yell at me.
rules. No, you can. Dallyn's been on the podcast a few times. He hasn't been on as a guest, but she's kind of sat in a couple times on the podcast when we were in the other location when I was doing it with Andy. And for the last, I don't know, and Dallyn and I have been together for 13 years. And I know this story about Dallyn and her father, and over the last, I guess the last few years, we've been talking about it. And after the 40th anniversary of him missing, you know, I've encouraged her to make it as public as possible so that she can maybe have some closure from this thing. And I know it's really intense. And and maybe how are you feeling, honey? You okay? You feeling okay? Are we allowed to talk about what you're going through right now?
I came down with COVID. It finally got me on Monday.
Yeah.
And, today is the first day so far that I don't have a fever, so that's good.
Yeah,
it feels
that's good.
A little weird, but I feel okay. I feel okay.
Okay.
Just easy, watching a lot of TV, but I'm okay. I'm up for this for sure.
I was surprised because Freddie, I was telling Dow, I said, you know, we've been on tour. I got a bug last week that was really horrible. Maybe over the years since I'm older, I get this, you know, maybe I'm allergic to some foods and stuff like that. But I got really sick again here. Uh-huh. So I'm thinking this has got to be COVID.
Water. Maybe you're not drinking enough water.
Yeah,
sound like my wife.
Yeah, I know. I got that a lot. She gave me a hard time about that.
She's right.
You know, right. Well, look, here you go. Look what I brought on the show. I got my water.
There you go.
The Germans got it down, you know. So, But again, we're not here to talk about my illness, or I'm not feeling bad. But I'm glad that you're feeling better. What it came up was the fact that I've been around a lot of people. We've been playing a lot of festivals, and I've been dodging that bullet, but eventually it's going to get me. I know it got Freddie. I
had it last month, and had a fever for 4 days.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
on day 5,
You got
it
better.
broke.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm
This is
glad you're okay.
day 3 for me. So hopefully we're through it.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
So listen, we only have an hour, and I want to talk about this because one thing that Dallyn's father, Eugene Pavey, one of the things I remember doing with Dallyn was that we took a ride to Brooklyn. It was Brooklyn, and we wanted to go visit the house where she talked about actually in Philadelphia Magazine and in the story she talked about getting her father's address and trying to track him down when she was visiting her grandfather. Your grandfather, of course, right, Dal? Right? Is that
I was visiting my grandmother and my grandfather at the house.
Right. Yeah. So instead of me trying to tell this story,
Okay.
why don't we just what? Yeah.
One thing about the Brooklyn story, I like to drive by like where I used to live and take pictures of the house and everything. I wanted
to come up.
Knock on the door. He's like, "Don't you get out of the car. Stay in the car. Somebody's going to kill you."
I was worried. I'm a husband.
I hear you.
He does that.
You never know.
But anyway, I mean, seeing that it's the 40th anniversary, and it was also my father's 90th birthday in March. It just started coming up again, and every couple of years, I try to dig and find something. And I've called the police department in Miami. I've gone online and sent emails to like the FBI and the CIA and the Freedom of Information Act, and it's always just a dead end. It's just a dead end. So, I really wanted to do something, and we had Cliff Hillis and Beth Lennon over for dinner. And they're just like two of the most upbeat, wonderful people you can ever meet.
Absolutely.
And that was like, you do it. You got to do it. You can do this. Even if nobody listens to it, you do it and see what happens. And like, she really just gave me that little push to do something. So, so basically that's how it all happened. And, I don't know if you want to go back and talk about like what my childhood was like and what happened.
I do. I mean, because I grew up, how I grew up. I had a mom and dad.
And was in a regular family, and the antithesis of that. And Fred Berkeley and I grew up in the same neighborhood when I was about 10 or 11, and we didn't really. I was like a little girl.
We didn't. Yeah, I'm a couple of years. I'm the same age as Dave. We're a week apart.
So it was a big deal back then. But
back then, a few years.
Right.
I was really the only girl in the neighborhood that didn't have a dad. I had a single mom who was really young and pretty, and only 21 years older than me. So she was basically a kid herself. Right. But I mean, my parents broke up when I was like 3, and we lived in Manhattan. And when they broke up, we moved to Atlantic City. And he had this little, he had like a small single engine plane or something. It was tiny, maybe 4 or 6 seats. He would fly me back and forth to New York. And I think when I was about, I don't know, I guess maybe 4 or 5, he lived in the city in Manhattan, and he walked me by the Ed Sullivan Theater, and there were all these girls and kids screaming outside. And he knew the guard from walking by there every day. And he said, "What's going on in there today?" And the guard said, "It's the Beatles."
Beatles, of course.
And, my dad's like, "Do you want to go in?" I'm like, no, I don't want to do the drugs, so.
The Beatles. So about your father, I mean, because not everybody's father has a plane either. So when I'm growing up, but your dad, what did he do in New York at the time? He was at an interesting gig.
Yeah. So if anybody watched the show Mad Men, he was like a creative director, a creative guy. And my uncle told me that he had something to do with the design of True cigarettes. I don't know if you remember the filter.
Sure. Looked like the Mercedes-Benz emblem.
Yeah, and also he had something to do with the Legs egg, the stockings that came in the middle in the thing. He never told me that himself. My uncle told me that, but he was a really creative guy, and he and my mother bought our great furniture that we still have now, which is the Eros Saarinen tulip table and chairs, and the womb chair, and we have an Eames surfboard table, and all of that stuff from this late 50s and early 60s, all of that mid-century modern stuff. I know about because of him and because of my mother. They bought all that when I was just a baby, and I still love it and appreciate it to this day.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So, I mean, for a while there, it was kind of, it was normal to what age? Your relationship? You had mom and dad till?
Well, they were only together until I was 3. I remember little things about hugging him so hard when he would put me to bed at night, not wanting to let him go. And I remember going to my grandmother's house in Brooklyn, and they had a little Pebbles doll for me, and she would feed me like Rice Krispies. And because I hated white milk so much, she would put baby food in there, and I would eat Rice Krispies. And so I have memories. But when I turned about 5 or 6, he wrote a letter which my mother saved, and I still have it. It's barely staying together. Just basically saying, I don't know what 6-year-old would understand this, but basically saying that I love you, but I don't want to share you with your mom, and I'm going to have to go away. And maybe
you got that when you were 6?
6, yeah. So I didn't really understand what that meant. I knew that it wasn't good, and I had memories of like walking from school and thinking, well, I know my father's out there somewhere. I just don't know where he is. And I love him anyway. And hopefully he loves me too. And maybe one day he'll find me. And that thought sort of kept going even into more recent times, especially with Google, like maybe 10 years ago. I hope he's alive, and I hope he Googles me and he can see that I'm doing okay.
Yeah. But, I know just with you and I, it's always been something like, I wonder, because you hear these stories of these people that go away, and they engineer their disappearance. And being your father was such a smart guy, and getting involved what he got involved with, he might be thought about, like, how do I get away with nobody?
He hadn't gotten to that yet. When he went away that first time, it was just because he didn't want to pay child support, and he didn't want to share me going back to my mother. Yeah. So all of these years passed, and now I'm 15, and I'm thinking, where is my father? And so I thought, well, maybe if I go see my relatives in Brooklyn, they know where he is. Although I would ask them from time to time. We didn't really keep in touch that much, but I would ask them from time to time if they knew where he was, and they said that they didn't. And I think they really did feel bad that he never saw me. It was like sad that he had this daughter that he never saw. So I called my uncle, and they invited me up for Thanksgiving dinner. And I took the bus up to New York. And when I got there after dinner, we had this beautiful Thanksgiving dinner, and it was great to see all my cousins that I didn't know. And so when we went to sleep that night, I got up in the middle of the night, and I went down into their kitchen, and I looked in their drawer, and there was
that took some balls.
Yeah, but you know what? It didn't feel bad. I didn't feel bad about it. It didn't feel silly. It just felt like I was there.
You felt like you're entitled.
I guess I did, and maybe I wasn't. But
I get it.
And there was that phone book, and I went right to P for Pavey, and it said Gene Pavey, and I wrote down the number. And when I got home, I called it, and his friend Sanford answered the phone. And so really it wasn't even his number. They didn't have his number. They just had his friend's number, which was an old number and address he had given me back when I was 5 or 6 years old. So I called it, and Sanford said, he's away on a trip. I'll give him your message. And to make a long story short, it took about a month for him to finally reach me. I called, he called back. I missed his call, and he called me back, and it went back and forth a few times. Finally got to talk to him. It felt great to hear his voice. He sounded exactly the same. He sent for me right away. I went and spent a week with him. It was just wonderful. He lived in Fort Lauderdale, and he had this cute little Volkswagen convertible Bug. Yeah. And he had all of these really cool young friends, and we were like smoking pot with the friends, and like no dad would really do that, but I thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
And then for a couple of years I would go back and forth, but then he got in some kind of trouble. I think he was selling amphetamines to like graduate students for their thesis thing.
Yeah.
And
Today it's Adderall or Ritalin.
But whatever it was illegal, and he got caught. And they sent him to I think it's called Eglin, and he was there for 90 days. And in fact, he was there with some of the Watergate guys.
Oh wow.
So you mean so I got it confused. I thought that was later. I didn't realize that.
No,
that was that early. Because I love this part of the story where he was in with like I don't think maybe G Liddy.
No.
G Liddy wasn't in.
It was guys I hadn't heard of. Not that I'm so up on Watergate, but it wasn't the big guys. But it was some of the guys from Watergate and he said they were really fascinating guys. But he told me that, and in the process of all of this getting back together, he's writing me letters. I think like every month, every couple of months, and just telling me what's going on. And it seems like, every month he had a new thing that he was going to try to do to get himself in business and make some money. And after he got out of this 3-month stint in prison, he had nothing. And he wanted me to come down and visit him. And he had this bungalow in Coconut Grove that was like, it was horrible. It was rat infested, and he would sleep outside in a van. It was literally one room with.
Right. How old were you then, Dal?
I think I was about.
How old were you then?
17, maybe. I was right around when I was graduating from high school, I think. And and it was a pretty horrible trip. I didn't like it at all. I would have rather slept up in the van and let him sleep in the house with the rats running back and forth. And then what started to happen was the next time I went, his house, he still had a bungalow, but it was a nicer bungalow. And he had this really cool red Austin Healey. And like he had like more of these cute friends and parties. And it was like a lot of fun to go down there. And then I would go down again. His car. Is that me?
I don't know. That was weird.
That was me.
Every time we go, it was like a little bit nicer and nicer. And now he has like a bigger house with a swimming pool. He's got a Porsche and a Cadillac. Whoa. And this was way before beepers and anything like that. We're talking like.
So there we go.
What that is.
It's me. I'm having a problem with my audio. It's all good.
But anyway, so like another little thing is we would go out to dinner, and he was selling pot. I didn't know that at the time, but he was selling pot. I was just having fun and going out to dinner and driving around in Porsches and stuff. And so we go out to dinner one night, and he makes his reservation under Dr. Pavey. And the hostess comes over to our table and says, "Excuse me, Dr. Pavey, you have an emergency." And he goes to the phone and he comes back. He said, "We have to leave." And I'm like, "Why? I want to eat dinner." Yeah. But he had like to meet somebody for this drug deal. And when I say meet somebody, he wasn't going out with a bag of pot and dropping it off somewhere. I mean, like at the top of the ladder with this stuff. And what started to happen was cocaine in the 80s in Miami, like Miami was the thing. It was it was smaller to move. It was lighter to move. Right. You could get it on planes easier. You could hide it on boats. And so this is what started to happen. And it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I remember opening a kilo of cocaine and putting a tablespoon on the counter, like right out of the kilo, and opening a suitcase with $50,000. He was like bragging and showing it to me because I couldn't. So that's basically what went on for a while.
And back then, I mean, think about it nowadays, I mean, we gotten a lot of more information, but back 70s, 80s, I mean, record companies even had budgets where they had the Coke budget and things like that. It was it was thought of differently. People didn't, I don't know if back in the 80s, people were thinking that it could kill you. Obviously it made your heart racer, but it wasn't looked at that way.
Don't you think that like it was kind of normal, at least in my
yeah, sure it was.
Working in
My
a restaurant
world too.
on South Street, and like
Yeah.
that's what we did. Nobody thought it was bad and it was going to kill you. It was like, you know.
No, everybody did it. I mean, I knew, like, I mean, it was not you know, that abnormal for a Friday night, Saturday night, every night for me to do a little bit. It was just something that, you know, was a part of the evening out, you know. So it was a bit expensive for me, but I remember that was something that was it was normal. It certainly doesn't have, and rightly so, it should, the stigma it has today, what it can do to you. You know what I mean? Because we're not advocating for cocaine. We're just telling the story about what it was about. Yeah.
Not a good thing. But back then we were young and we were stupid and we were having fun.
Yeah.
And I was having a lot of fun. But you know, and like these dinners, I would come home to Narberth in my little bedroom in Narberth and like drive around in a beat up Chevy Malibu with different colored bumpers or fenders, and then go to Florida and be in this like environment with all this money and lavish champagnes and dinners.
Yeah.
So we went to that dinner. David knows about this. We went to a dinner. I think there might have been, I don't know, 16 of us, something like that. And like just bottles of Tattinger flying, like bottle after bottle after bottle. And I remember the bar bill was like $1,500 back then. And my father's friend told me he thinks like the whole bill might have been like $5,000.
Right.
Wow.
A lot.
Like 1979, 1980. Like, you know, nobody spent that kind of money for dinners. And at dinner, I just recently.
Drug lords did. People that were like a part of cartel, because at that dinner, I don't know if you want to tell this part of that dinner, but you had some real heavyweights. The heavyweight, I think it was the Medellin drug cartel. Yeah. That woman was they made movies about her because she was notorious. Yeah.
Griselda Blanco was at one of these dinners, and I had no idea she was there. She was just another table. But recently, a friend of my father's told me that that was her at the dinner, and that they were trying to recruit these other two guys, really nice guys, friends of my father's, young guys, from the pot business into the cocaine business, but no part of it. And then
they didn't want any part of it, the two guys?
No. They were happy just doing their little
smart.
And they wanted
to end up dead.
Yeah. And so, like I said, I remember going to sleep at night, and he had this beautiful house. There was like a security wall right outside my bedroom window. I'm thinking anybody could jump over that security wall. And like, I'm the first person they come to in the house.
Right. I mean, so, that woman, she was known as was it the Black Widow?
Black Widow.
Griselda Blanco, and she's credited with over 200 murders. And she personally, I mean, and then she was really, she was not a nice lady. I mean, she took people down.
She would kill children and animals. And anybody. I don't think that she personally did it, but she had people that she had two of her husbands killed. One of them in front of their son, whose name is Michael Corleone.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So she was pretty scary. And then the next time I went down there, he meets this young girl.
The wedding. That's what I wanted to get into. That kind of stuff.
Nice girl from a Jewish family. She's like 18 years old, and I think I'm 22. And I go down and I meet her, and I'm thinking, what does she want to do with my father?
Right.
50 years old.
You were thinking that back then? Did you? Even back then, you.
I was older than her, and I didn't want to be with a guy that old. Like the attraction was the money, the drugs, the cars. It was like being a rock star. It was like being a rock star. Sure. You know about that, guys, right?
Yeah.
So
it's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. We can talk about that later. But one of the as soon as she started coming into the picture, like it just, I think she was jealous of me. I was jealous of her. I wasn't getting the time from my father anymore. It just
understandable.
Kind of a drag.
Yeah.
So they have this wedding, and there's bodyguards at the wedding.
The video's amazing. Finding that video for me was,
Yeah.
I mean, it was just a story, Fred. It was, to me, until we digitized these was it, what did I digitize? It was an 8-track, an 8-track, or what? I had these cassettes.
VHS. It was
Yeah,
a VHS.
VHS.
Oh,
Yeah. I took it to a friend of mine that I met that used to work.
1982. I'm surprised it didn't break.
wow.
And we bring it. I bring it to this guy who was digitizing stuff that I had from touring, and then I said, let's have this stuff digitized. And we brought it home, and then we, Dallyn put it on her laptop, and we watch it. And we start seeing all these things that she's telling me.
Well, how crazy!
On video.
My father has himself mic'd.
Mic'd.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's
Yes.
mic'd the whole time, and he's a bit of
Wow.
a bragger, and he's just going around telling everybody he's moving to the Bahamas, and we're going to get, his wife is going to learn how to fly a plane, and we're going to not to get out of the business, and he was just talking way too much.
Yeah. Get out of the business.
Yeah, he promised her family that when they got married that they would get out.
I mean, before the marriage, though, I remember one time, because you told me this story about Jan Michael Vincent, and you guys were at this party. I want to bring that up because he had a pretty. That's a guy that's kind of really became like almost like a street person in Santa Monica. He passed away. But Dallyn, you told a story where he was a nice guy. You guys went to get a Coke because you were out partying with this guy. Was it Rocky there?
My father disappeared, but after my father disappeared, I went to Florida to try to clean up some of his shit. For the better. One of his friends' girlfriends took me to Vero Beach to meet with Jan Michael Vincent, and for the weekend. I didn't know he was coming with his girlfriend. If you remember him back then, he was pretty darn.
He was Airwolf. He was on TV. I thought he played, and I think Jan Michael Vincent played an episode. There was a Flipper. Remember Flipper? I think he played.
I know that
I think he played Sandy.
When we saw Jan Michael Vincent.
Yeah.
Here we are in a hotel room in Vero Beach with Jan Michael Vincent and his wacko girlfriend doing coke, and but he was really nice and friendly, and I remember that I wanted to go get a Coke, and he offered to walk me down to the machine and like put the quarter in. I'm like, oh, Jan Michael Vincent just bought me. Pretty crazy night, but I mean, the fact that it was Jan Michael Vincent, made it really fun. But otherwise, it was kind of a creepy night.
That's cool.
But
did you feel that even back then that it was a creepy night, or back then it was just a night out? Having partying.
I was like, I'm with Jan Michael Vincent. This is
right. Now you look back now and you get the creep factor, but when you think about those times when you were in it, you were having a good time.
It was
good.
Yeah. Even after my father disappeared, but just to go back for a few months, they have this wedding with all of these bodyguards and everything. And he's mic'd and he's talking all of this shit about what he's going to do.
Right.
And then we go back to his house, and the next day I'm supposed to fly home, but he never comes out of the bedroom the whole day. Now, I get that it's the day after he got married, but these two people have lived together for like over a year.
Right.
And I'm his daughter visiting there for a couple of days. They never came out of the bedroom. And I got really angry, and I finally knocked on the door, and I think he gave me $50 or $100 to take a cab to the airport. And I was like, screw that. So I came home, I went back to work. And then about a month later, he invited me to fly down again and spend the weekend with them in the Bahamas. They were going to Great Abaco Island to buy a house and get out of Dodge. But I didn't want to go because of how I was treated the next day after the wedding.
He did you a favor.
Good thing you didn't go.
He did you a favor. And might I add too, because I'm sure your mom will be watching this, and she didn't know, Freddie. She didn't know any.
She knew.
Dallyn kept everything from her.
she wouldn't have let
regards
you
to
go.
Yeah,
wanted
and
you to
even
go.
the stuff that was happening before with like
Sure.
just the party, and she goes, because nowadays she'll say to Dow, like, why didn't you tell me? But it didn't make sense to do that back then, right, Dow? It was.
Couldn't have told her. I didn't even tell my closest friends. There was one person who knew about it, Meryl, and she knew about it because she was coming down to Florida with me for a couple of days. So I told her, but nobody really knew. And I didn't want to go back to Florida after I was treated that day.
Sure.
Fun that it was turned into a big drag, and I just didn't want to go anymore. So I went about my business, and I think it was about July 2nd or 3rd, I got a phone call from one of the guys that worked for him he was flipping houses, redoing homes and selling them. And one of his foremen called me and said, your dad never showed up to the Bahamas, and his wife's 15-year-old sister has been waiting at the airport over there, and they never came to get her. And he's missing, and you need to come. So a day or two later, I was on a plane and went to Miami. And her
You did
family.
did you by yourself?
Well, my mother helped.
Yeah.
No, I went by myself. My mother wanted to come. I was like, no. You are not coming. Because she had no idea what was going on down there. But her family graciously took me in and took care of me for the 6 weeks that I was in Miami, while they hired private investigators and the Coast Guards and the police. Everybody tried to find them. And they really just vanished into thin air. There was no boat, no body. None of the stuff that was on the boat was ever found. Everything just disappeared. And it's just like they vanished. So I was there for 6 weeks trying to figure out what happened. And since I didn't know, like, I didn't think they died. It was like too much to just think what could have happened to them. So I never really knew or thought, or I don't know. It's hard to even put into words, but I came home with no closure. I never grieved. I came home. I started dating Rob Miller. I went back to work. I, started working in radio. Like, life just went on, and nothing.
I think I met you around that time, right? 80.
Yeah, I met you in 1983.
82.
And he disappeared in July of 82. So I just went on about my business and never really thought hard about it. And then just recently, it's just been nagging at me. And so I did this video series that Beth Lennon suggested I do. And I got such an incredible response from it.
Which was nice. Although you should talk about what you did with your ex-husband, Alan, when you were telling your story. That was a big part of it as well, wasn't it? I mean, when I hear that with the Library of Congress, when I hear you tell your story, because you thought it was going to be really horrible, and it turned out to be, you were articulating your story beautifully, and I think you talked about that.
We were watching 60 Minutes one night a few months back, and they did a story on StoryCorps, which is a really cool thing. Everybody should look it up. What they do is they collect stories from all over the United States, and they log them with the Library of Congress as part of American history. And so I was with my ex-husband, Alan, and we were at Ground Zero in the train station there. And there was a, oh my God, I'm having COVID brain.
What happened?
There was an Airstream there that had a big sign on it called StoryCorps, and he knew what it was because he had done an interview, and he said, "Do you want to go in and tell your story?" So I'm like, okay, why not? But it wasn't a great time in our marriage, and I was really sad, and I went through this whole story like I'm going through now, and it felt disjointed, just like it does now. And I forgot about it, and our marriage ended, and we're still great friends, and we like him a lot. But so we're watching this show on 60 Minutes, and I said to David, I did one of those things like in 2005 with Alan. I said, I never heard it. I have such bad feelings about that day, but I wonder what it sounds like. So they went into their archives and they found it for me. And I invited people who wanted to hear it on Facebook to send me a message, and I would email it to them or text it to them.
Right.
And it came out so good. It was so, it just told everything.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, like, what is it now? Almost 20 years later,
Mm-hmm.
my memory was much better of everything then than it is now, because it was very detail oriented, but it was a great story.
It's really good.
Yeah.
You know? And you didn't think it was going to be, you know, it was first like, I don't know. And it was very, very good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I took that voiceover and I used that voiceover to basically do the videos.
Gotcha.
And then I just added my, you know, extra voiceover stuff.
Sure.
And I put it on Facebook, and I put it on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok. I put it everywhere, and people really, really enjoyed the story.
And what's great about this, Dallyn, too, and Freddie, is that people will tell you, like, you know, what it's interesting, because I don't always know what people are going to want to listen to, or what they're going to hear, or what they're going to even like when you post it. But when you put something up that everybody like has a thing that's, they use that word like what is the word that spreads it? Viral. When you have something that has that component, Dallyn's story right away, people were immediately like the people that she did not ever talk to, or they were happened to be friends, and people just reached out to her, wanted to hear this.
Yeah,
it really had got it. You know, it touched a nerve in a lot of people. I thought it was
a fascinating
terrific.
story.
Yeah.
I have a question, actually, two-part, and not to be. Well, first of all, you said you reached out to the FBI and nothing, like no response, like they could.
No. They answered me. They said, you have a case number and we'll get back to you. And then several months later, just said, you know, regarding this case, it was like a form. They just said, regarding this case, we found no evidence of Eugene Pavey and no evidence of blah, 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 blah. Found anything. It's just odd. And it also could be because it was 1982 and a lot of those records are gone now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Second part, not to be insensitive, have you ever thought about maybe a documentary movie concerning this? Because the story is fascinating.
Well, that's what I'm finding, Fred, that people are really fascinated with the story. Like, to me, you know, it's like you tell people and you don't want to bore them. I don't know
it's your life. It's your life, of course.
To me, I couldn't tell how interesting it was, but people really seem to like it. So when I put these videos out there, Victor Fiorello from Philadelphia Magazine watched them, and he said, would you want to do a story about this? And I said, well, yeah.
Of course.
And so that really, between the video and the article, that kind of really put it out there. Yeah. And so I recently got an email from a production company in the UK that's would like to pitch it to do a documentary. They have channels here and channels there. So that would be pretty cool. You know, I'm just waiting to see what the next step is. There's a journalist in Miami who is really going to do some investigative digging and put a story together and pitch it to like a bigger publication. So I'm excited about that. And then whatever unfolds from it, I mean, you know, it's an interesting story, I guess.
To me, it was always well, you know, I mean, you're my wife, so I mean, like we talk about this a lot, and I just thought, well, any way that you could get some closure and some peace, because you know, I don't have anything like that going on in my life. I don't know about you, Fred. I got like, you know, I know where, you know, my parents are, you know, I know where they rest, those kind of things. But, you know, to get a kind of peace is huge. You know, so I'm
hoping the more people that hear about the story outside of the Philadelphia area, you know, maybe it'll reach someone somewhere and they'll say, you know, it's been over 40 years. Let's just let this girl know what happened already. So I don't want to get anybody arrested. I don't want to.
Sure.
I just want to know what happened. That's
all.
So
you said, I read the article and watched the video. So you basically have like 3 theories of what might have happened.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that a little?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Well, the first one would be that they like took off to South America or something. But that
Portugal.
doesn't really I'm sorry?
Or a lot of people run to where was it that was it they a lot Portugal seems to be a place people seem to want to go to. The country. Get away. For some reason you find a country.
You know, she was so much younger than him. I don't think she could have stayed quiet all of this time. And she was so with her family. She had sisters, and they were all like a couple of a year or 2, 3 apart. I don't think she could have done that.
That's a little far to go in
yeah. Also, we talked a lot about your dad. I mean, you know, that family was obviously affected by what's going on here. I mean, think about it. She was
their
like
lives
21 years old.
Their lives were
never the same.
She was 19 years old. She was a child, and it ruined their family.
Collateral damage.
Yeah, really, really terrible. The other thing that I thought might have happened was that it was piracy, because it was a cigarette boat, and they were known for running drugs and money, and the Triangle people disappear all the time. So that would make sense that they just saw a man and a woman out there on a cigarette boat and figured, oh, I'm sure they have a lot on the boat and drugs. And so that could have just been the second scenario. The third scenario, which I kind of think is what happened, but of course I'll never know, is that I think he just told too many people what he was doing, where he was going, and when he was going. And that
they knew he had cash on the boat.
Yeah,
you know?
He had a lot of cash on the boat because he was making a down payment on a house in Abaco Island. So I think they just were either waiting for him out there in the middle of the ocean. There's a certain way to cross over from Miami to Great Abaco Island, and I think, you know, they just got him, and maybe they shot him and threw them overboard and hosed down their boat and brought it back to shore and just took everything. But also they had boating trouble. They left Miami too late in the afternoon to make the crossing. And then they stopped in Fort Lauderdale, I think, to work on the engine.
But Dow, you've talked to people there was one guy that you talked to that saw him on the dock, like that saw him that day, right? I mean, being able to chat with people. Yeah. You know, saw him before he left.
Yeah, one of the guys at the marina said that they saw him, and there was another guy on the boat, but the guy on the boat could have been from the Miami marina, taking him to the Fort Lauderdale marina. There's a lot of weird stuff. Somebody said that they didn't see his wife on the boat, but she could have been underneath. You know, they had sleeping quarters and stuff underneath. Maybe she just didn't come up. So it's not like she was missing from the boat. They definitely were together. So there's all kinds of weird things.
So, so you got those three things, and then, I mean, your imagination could and tell you like all kinds of different things that went on. I always thought it was pretty fascinating when you told me the story about when you went over to Abaco Island afterwards, and, you know, searching out like what he was going to. You told, you know, there were some things that he left, things that, you know, like you go to a safe. There's supposed to be something in there that wasn't what was supposed to be. I mean, those things are kind of interesting as well. The car, your mom in the car. That's amazing.
I was actually supposed to go with my ex-boyfriend, Rob Miller, to go, but he got in that car accident. And then the Hooters and all of that. So my mother went with me. And that was definitely a fun trip, Mom. I'm sure you're listening.
She had can I tell the caddy story? She wanted to bring the caddy home. Was it a Cadillac or something like that?
There was a Cadillac there that somebody gave my father, or I don't know.
You said, no way, you're not bringing that car home.
The Cadillac, let's bring it home. But in the meantime, it was like a Cadillac probably from 1968. It was like this old, dead Cadillac from some drug dealer who was either lending it to his father or something. She's like, let's bring it home. Like, no way are we bringing the Cadillac home. I don't even want these people to know that we're here. Let's just get it down.
I want to say, listen, I know you obviously have issues with your father. For me, hearing the story from you, I've always was like, damn it, like, but I remember what changed a lot for me was reading the letters that he wrote you. Like those letters that you found, Dallyn read, we sat down at the kitchen table and the bar there, and we just read these letters that he wrote her, and he loved her, and he wanted to, he was always trying to be, he never really measured up, and he wanted to try to measure up to be a good father. Right. And he kind of wanted those, there were a few of those letters really got to me, and I thought, he won me over, but he was a bad guy doing some bad things.
No, I don't think he was. I don't know if he was a bad guy. I just think he got wrapped up in stuff that was over his head. I mean, if you read those letters, some are signed Gene and some are signed Dad, which I don't know why. And it's funny because I never knew what to call him, Gene or Dad. But he always said he loved me, and he always wanted me to come visit him, and he always was going to, there was always like, you're going to come and you're going to stay here for a while, and I'll help you get a job. Like it was really, really nice for a while. And all of that other crazy stuff was not always in the forefront. It was more at the end. But when we first got together, before he got into all of this mess, they were loving letters. And, I forgot I had them. And if it wasn't for this Philadelphia Magazine article, I never found them. They were stuck in a box in the garage. So that was really a gift from this. And then also from doing this Philly Mag thing and the videos and the voiceover, everything, I feel like I finally grieved my father's loss.
There you go.
Yeah. I think that's great.
Yeah. So it feels good to purge all of this. I'm sure some people are so sick of hearing this story already.
But your life.
But you have to have to take action in your own life. Everyone does, to clear, to have peace. And you had to do this, and you're not done. I mean, you've done a lot of stuff, but I think, this is part of, getting there,
It's just been, it's a sad story. It's a crazy story, but it's my story.
Right.
And it really has felt great getting it all out of me instead of just throwing a few sentences across a dinner table, when we're at a party or something. I mean, I really dug in and told the grit of it all. And it's a shame that he comes out looking like such a bad guy. Maybe he was a bad guy, but I still have some really, really good memories.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. I mean, look, it really is it's a remarkable story.
I still love my father. He may have done a lot of, and I do.
Yeah. Wow.
That's
heavy. It's heavy. So, it's really heavy.
It is really heavy. So where are you doing? What's coming up next with this? You have some, because to me, I always thought, like, I always encourage you, write a book, write about it, do something. I mean, the fact that we can use writing a book is a lot of work, but I think the story is fascinating. And I think that, like what I've gotten from people, as you asked me, well, who's this person? Because I would share Dallyn's story, and then people would reach out to me and say, I have a similar story. I went through the same thing. I love the Tony DeCopel story. The fact that his father did the same thing. I mean, I think it's really, we're living in a different, he's on CBS Mornings, and his father was a pot dealer, one of the biggest pot dealers in the world, because Florida, if you're a big pot dealer in Florida, there was a lot of pot that came in Florida.
Pot dealers, but he did a lot of what my father did, and his father survived. He went to prison, but he did survive. And in fact, I did write to Tony DeCopel, and I asked him if his father knew my father, and he wrote back that he didn't. And he even shared a little photo I put up from Philly Mag on his Instagram story, which was so exciting because I'm such a big fan of his. But I'm just waiting to see what happens next. I'm hoping that I hear back from these producers in the UK. I'm hoping that this journalist in Miami finds something. And I'm hoping that one thing leads to something else.
Sure.
And, before we leave this earth, I'll find out more information.
Sure.
Yeah, it's amazing the generosity of a lot of people when they hear a story and they, and people just assume that you haven't had things going on in your lifetime, and people want to help, if they can, and they generally do, So I mean, it's been
Everybody's
great.
so supportive, and I'm hearing from people that I haven't talked to in years, and running into people in restaurants who say they read my story, and it's been a very positive outcome for kind of a negative story.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
But I like it that, I like the stories, and Dallyn and I have I met him through a jeweler friend of Dallyn's, and I like the guy that fixes the rings and the earrings and stuff. When he was telling the story about what was he went to this.
Scott used to be at Lickety Split, after me.
And his father, wasn't he the father owned Artemis, right, in the city? Was it him?
Yeah, yes, he did. Yeah.
Wow. So I forgot. I happened to be reading a book at the time, and he had a bunch of interesting dudes that were in prison with him, and it was a little bit. Was it Allenwood he was in?
I think it was Allenwood.
He was in Allenwood. So it was like they would always call it a country club jail, and when your dad right back.
They called it Club Fed.
Instead
of Club Med.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There were all these interesting dudes. The guy was great. And he one day when I was there with Dallyn, he was saying that he was telling me the story to be in there. There was, I forget what mob guy was in there, but there was a big, a Genovese guy, but some mob guy in there. And this guy he went to visit his dad, and he was telling his story about like his dad, like hanging out with the big time mob guy. And he said they were all like family guys, they just going to work. I'm just going to cut somebody's head off today. You know what I mean? It was pretty crazy, so, I mean, Dallyn, I'm
the family
I
business.
am very,
right.
What's
the
that?
Family business.
The family business. And, your dad had a business, and, I'm glad you didn't go down that route. You're doing great. This is really amazing what you're doing with this, getting your story out there. And it took a lot of courage, because you're going to get your criticisms, and people are going to go like, what is she doing? And, that was a bad business. But these are things sometimes you again, like I said earlier, you have to have closure. You have to address it. You have to be willing to throw it out there, because you'll get a reward for it, whatever that may be. Sometimes you don't know.
I've gotten the reward, because the reward is getting all of this off of my chest. The reward is, getting so much positive feedback, and having Philly Mag cover it. Gotten the reward. I
don't think it's done yet. Is there anything, like I was looking, I know we talked about it, questions and things like that, but is there anything that I missed that you want to talk about? Did I hit all the like fine points of the Dallyn Pavey Uosikkinen thing here?
I hope it came across okay.
Listen, it is what it is.
The bottom line is, and I said this before, the ending of this story right now is still the beginning. I'm just a little girl who loves her dad, and I want to find out what happened. And it kind of took, a couple of left turns along the way, and he didn't do all of the right things. But the wrong things that he did were a lot bigger than most of the wrong things that other dads did.
Sure.
And he paid a hell of a price. We didn't even talk about him being able to witness you going after the Little Miss Atlantic City award. You didn't even get to touch on him. He knew about that.
Little Miss Atlantic City. Yeah. I think he's mad that my mother put his name in the paper as my father or something. I have that memory of that. He was a difficult guy.
Wow.
And, I think my mother made the right decision.
Yeah, she did great. She did great.
Really did a good job raising a little kid. She had me when she was 21 years old, and I can't imagine. I just can't imagine her being so young and being responsible for a child.
Right.
So, you know, kudos to my mother, and she had no idea what my father was doing. And, you know,
that's the Roz. Hey, Roz, the good job. We love you. So we're coming to a close shortly. Everybody's good. Dallyn, you're going to get better, right?
Yeah, I'm feeling better today.
Yeah, I hope this wasn't too painful for you to get up and do this, your morning time there. You know,
no, I actually put on clothes since Sunday, so it feels good.
It's an excuse to get out of bed, right?
Yeah, I told her lay in bed, order food. We've got great friends, and everybody's offered to pitch in.
Pierre brought me Chinese food.
Yeah, nice.
Laura brought Adam made homemade chicken, and Laura brought my door.
Yeah,
my mother brought me meatballs, and my neighbor Michael went and got my prescription. I mean, everybody's just been really great because they know David's away and I'm here by myself. So everybody's been really wonderful, and I thank you all.
I thank you too. You know, being away, I felt a little guilty. You know, like being away and you get sick, and I've had my friends, you know, the pals, and people have checked in on you and supporting what you're doing.
I do. I feel very loved.
Well, you are, babe.
Sometimes I feel that way, but I do.
Yeah. Freddie and Fred, you're good, man. Everything's good with you. You're playing. You're being busy.
I became a grandfather again.
Hey, congratulations. Oh my God.
Number 5.
Mazel tov.
Yeah, thanks,
That's wonderful.
Man. First girl, little girl.
Great. And you know how much I love you. We grew up together.
I know.
Brook Park.
I love you too. OP,
baby.
I'm
so glad you could be with us. You know.
Thank you for having me.
Of course,
I'm
man.
honored because I even told David, I was like, "Are you sure you want me to be part of this?" You know.
Oh yeah.
No, we did
because it's so personal.
No, man, we wanted you. You know, Fred, you were like a part of my life. I mean, Fred and I, Dallyn, you know, and it's like you.
Yeah.
You know, Fred, since the Hooters started, we've been buds. I was telling somebody the other day, our birthday, we have the same age of birthday.
That's right.
Right. Fred.
I read here. Fred the Red.
Fred the Red. And our birthdays are a week apart. I'm even older. I'm a little older than
You're
Fred
older
by like
7 days.
7 days older.
Yeah.
But you know, we're living the life. We're having a good time. I'll be home soon. Yeah. I got 8 more shows. I got a day off. I don't have to play tonight. I'm hanging out in my hotel. If you notice, I got my little fan. I got my air conditioner. I got a nice little, little deal here. So I'm going to grab some dinner. I'm going to hang out. And this is podcast 111. And I want to thank everybody for joining us. It's been a lot of fun. Dallyn, I love you. Thanks for being on. Freddie, I love you too.
Love you guys.
We'll hang when we get back.
Yeah.
Listen, we'll see you again on In the Pocket.
Dun, 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 dun.